I'm joined by my friend, Mr. Bonny Kibuuka, all the way in the US, a Ugandan like me, a podcaster like me. Mr. Bonny, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's weird. I'm always the person who is on the back of the camera asking people questions. So today I'm in the hot seat. I'm not used to this, but thanks for having me on your show, brother.
Thank you so much. For some of our listeners who may not know you, how would you introduce yourself?
My name is Bonny Kibuuka. I'm a Ugandan living in the United States of America. I'm the
Mm,
host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. It's a podcast where I host people to come and have a conversation, talk about life, career, anything that they want to share. I'm also an aircraft mechanic. That's what I went to school for. So the podcast is kind of like a hobby. It's a side thing, but I'm a full time aircraft mechanic. That's what I do Monday through Friday, and then Saturday I do a podcast. Um, that's pretty much it.
okay. So tell me about Ugandan Boy Talk Show. It has grown to become one of Uganda's biggest podcasts. Um, when I started binge listening to your podcast, I think a year ago,
Yeah.
I heard you started during the COVID pandemic,
Hmm.
and then during the election period in Uganda, it started bringing people, and
Yeah.
so tell me the journey of the podcast and the inspiration behind it.
So yeah, COVID was something bad to the world, but also was a good thing to the people that it helped to bring the talent out of people. Like people didn't know they could do things until
Mm,
COVID when we didn't have much to do. So that was one of the things that in COVID, I started a podcast because we're locked in the house. You really can't do much. And my podcast started like a journey of my personal story because I felt like God had done something in my life that I wanted to share with another person out there. The story of my journey, like I told you, I'm an aircraft mechanic. There isn't really a lot of people from Uganda that you can say they're aircraft mechanics. Now, the people there's a lot of people now who are going into aviation from Uganda, but achieving that, then I felt like sharing
mm,
that story would inspire another child if I shared it. And I'd listened to a lot of podcasts in the US. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I start my own podcast? And I remember the first time I just sat in front of my phone and I was just talking to the phone. I hit that record. You know how you record a voice on
mm,
the. I didn't know anything about like microphones I mean I knew about microphones and stuff, but I did not have the money at the time to do that. So slowly by slowly, I bought a microphone. I bought that, and I ran out of stories. I think after like 3 episodes. So then I was like, I've talked a lot about myself. So then I realized that there's a lot of people out there in the world that have similar stories, different journeys that I can host on my podcast, and they share about their life and with a goal to inspire another child or somebody who is tuning in, or even to just put a smile on somebody's face. There are people who have listened and like, oh, I smiled, or you helped me go through something like this. So that's how my podcast started. And I think after 1 year, we got nominated in the Pulse Awards. That was kind of a shock, actually. I didn't know.
mm.
I did not send in submissions for my podcast because I had just started. I did not have numbers. I did not have even anything. Like, I didn't even know I was nominated till a friend of mine sent me a screenshot. I was like, they're
Yeah.
nominated. But again, I think I just have favor from God that when I shared with people the links, they voted and I got my first award. Yeah, this one. Paul's was a podcast influencer of the year. And then I got the second one, the second year. We got nominated again. And now we're the three-time podcast influencer of the year. And recently we just got another nomination for the best youth podcast in Uganda, which I think right now we're in the lead. I don't know how far that's going, but we're still in the lead for that. But yeah, it's grown, and God has helped me to give me knowledge on getting guests and people to come on the podcast, share their stories. And I was honored to have you part of one of my episodes on the podcast. And you're maybe your listeners should go check it out on my YouTube and they listen to a little bit of your story there.
Nice, nice, nice. One thing I like about your podcast is the way you collaborate with Ugandan entities. Dance of studios that you
Yeah.
usually where your guests are, and also the guy who did the music intro for your
Hmm.
podcast,
Hmm.
and also the guy who does your artwork for your podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how do you manage these partnerships, and why did you decide also to do these partnerships? Because most people want to do it by themselves, like everything by themselves.
I'm actually glad that you talk about that because I've always wanted to shout out to these guys that helped me. I started this podcast alone, um, but along the journey, like you remember, I keep saying favor, favor, favor from God. Along the journey, I've met people that really buy into my vision, buy into something that I want to do, and they
Mm,
just reach out to me. It's like, hey, I want to be a part of that. Shout out to Downsoft Studios. It's a studio in Kampala that I'm in the United States. But when you're watching my podcast on YouTube, a lot of people, even my latest episode, the guy showed
uh,
up in studio. It's like, I thought you were here. I was like, no, I'm not there. I host this podcast in the US and the people are in Uganda. But when you're watching them on YouTube, you can't really tell. And all that magic is done by Downsoft Studios, able to they jumped in helping me to bring these seamless graphics and videos and visuals to make my podcast better. The graphics guy, shout out to David Mamba. David Mamba just reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, dude, I love the work that you do. I'm
mm,
talented in graphics. Can I be a part
mm,
of your team?" I was like, "Thank you, brother. Just join in." The guy who did the intro of my podcast, he was a guest on my podcast. He's like, "Hey, thanks for giving me an opportunity to be on your podcast. I'm a talented musician. Can I do an intro for your podcast?" I was like, "I would love to." So it's been a journey like that. Like people just come on and just join the team and help me. So again, I'll just say it's been favor and just the love from the people.
nice, 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 nice. And then another thing that usually highlight on your podcast is the fact that you do the recording and editing by yourself.
Mm,
And
mm. Yeah.
so I also do that for my podcast,
Mhm.
literally. So I want to have your perspective of that element of your work.
I tell you, like I was talking to a friend today, and I was telling them that editing videos is not for the weak, and people who are just starting video because if
Mm,
unless you have a lot of money to have a special editor to do that
mm,
for you, which some of us don't have that kind of money, like you have to deal with other stuff.
mm,
But I was introduced to, so I started off by using iMovie. I would record my podcast and I use iMovie on the computer to just put the episodes together. Actually, I started off like doing like this where I was recording my podcast on like Zoom or Google Meet. But I faced a problem that some of the people back in Uganda didn't have really stable internet and
mm,
it affected the connection of the conversations. So like
mm,
sometimes
mm,
you lose
mm,
connection. And that's why I
mm,
resorted to having guests go to the studio because at the studio they have cameras that are recording the people in the studio. And then I have camera here. So then, and we have separate audio. So we just add all that together. So we bypass the poor network
mm,
that might affect that. So then when I started doing the studio work, they record the the videos in Uganda, and actually they send them over to me on the US. So we use internet, and they send these videos to me, and I sit down and edit them. Actually, I was actually just working on one of my episodes. So I was introduced to DaVinci. DaVinci Resolve is what I use right now, and I also use Adobe Audition because I'm a freak about audio. That's one of the biggest things that I really wanted to work on. The sound of I've struggled with that, and I've still not mastered it, but I think I've made some good progress. But taught
mm,
myself how to edit those. So it's a lot of work. It takes me about a week because I have a full time job. So I dedicate like 2 hours every day when I get off work to work on the podcast. So
mm,
that's why I shoot on the weekends and then
mm,
I release. I used to release Mondays, but I didn't see any difference. So I resorted back to either Saturday or Monday. But yeah, editing I teach myself. I pretty much I have two screens. One is a YouTube on how to do something I want to do. So I Google it on YouTube. How do you do this? And then I'm just doing it over there. So, and then I have some friends who are into videos that I usually call up. I'm like, hey, how am I able to do this? So it's a learning process. I'm not there yet, but at least I can get some work out there that people can appreciate.
Nice, 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 nice. When someone listens to episodes for quite a long time, does that question usually ask your guests, what are the things you're grateful for? So I am a person with a lot of gratitude.
See, funny thing is like the questions that I ask my guests, sometimes I love to listen to their answers, but when we flip and they're asking me that question, I go blank. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to say. But no, I'm grateful. I have a lot of gratitude because I've gained a lot in my life. Um, God brought me to a point where
Mm,
I've got everything that I've ever wanted. Um, when I pray to God, He has given me everything that I've even more than what I wanted. I remember when I just first finished Form 6, I all I wanted was to get a passport, a driver's license, and what was the third thing? Oh, I don't remember the third thing, but there were two things. And once I got a driver's license, or what they call it, a permit in Uganda, and then I got my passport, and then I was like, oh, now what? But I wanted to use my passport. And then everything just started falling into place. And I'm the kind of person who writes down my goals and I achieve those. And there was one point where God helped me achieve all my goals and I just wanted to get new goals. And so I'm a gratitude, I give a lot of gratitude and I'm thankful for the things that I have in my life. And that's why it means so much to me that I ask my guests on the podcast what they are thankful for.
nice, 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 nice. Um, my last question to the podcast is, do you think podcasting has a role in shaping the future of Uganda in the media industry?
A lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. Yeah, it does. 100 and 1,000%. Because when you think about the media in Uganda and you try to YouTube the things that people
Mm,
put up or people like a lot in Uganda is
mm,
fighting each other or like putting somebody down or like gossip or like things that you wouldn't think I mean they're funny for entertainment.
mm,
But sometimes we don't need just funny things. We need some things to learn, like
mm,
something that's gonna shape you to be a better person. So like I remember when I was growing up, my dad would find me watching something that he thinks it's useless. Then he asks you, what did you learn from that? And when you don't give him a reason on something you learned from that, he'll tell you don't have to watch it again. I feel like podcasts, like the way we do these things, when you bring guests on your podcast, they share their knowledge, they share their challenges, they share their stories. And sometimes there's a lot of podcasts of like funny jokes. We need that. We need jokes to laugh, you know. I'm not just saying like we just need serious podcasts about like life struggles because sometimes people don't need that. People just need to laugh and to have a good time.
mm,
But I feel like the more we do these podcasts, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and give me a feedback. They're like, man, I really learned a lot from this guest that you brought.
mm,
And then people have messaged me like, man, these guests were funny. I can point out two episodes, like the one let's shout out to Let's Take Off, and then shout out to Trills UG and Sir Amon, the two guys that do comedy in Uganda. I had them on the podcast and myself too as a host, I was just crying and laughing. So we have that. But I feel like right now people are going into podcasting because they believe it's going to change the media in Uganda. And there's a lot of young men and women in Uganda that bring up these podcasts that we not only just have fun, we talk about things that are going to shape us and the youth in Uganda. So yeah.
nice, 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 nice. Let's go to your journey in America and you living in the States and me living here. You know, the funny thing here is the narrative here is that they make us think America is evil. I don't know if the same way
I
they teach
remember
you
you
guys.
said that. You said that when you're on my podcast. You
Yeah.
asked me that question. Yeah, I remember you asked me that.
Yeah, but I want to just give me an outlook on life as a Ugandan in America.
So I'll put a, how do they call it? Not a caption. I would say I might not be able to speak for everybody because
Mm,
everybody in America, every Ugandan in America goes through a different thing.
mm, mm,
I'm in Michigan, so somebody in New York might be going through something different that I don't go through. So I'm gonna speak for myself, and if somebody's tuning in and they say no, it's not the way it is for me, it's different.
mm,
Um, in Michigan, there's a lot, especially where I live. I mean, in the town where I live, there's a lot of like more white people than black people. Actually, at
mm,
my work, I'm the only black person there. Um, so sometimes those the people you work with cannot
mm,
connect to you on a personal level. They don't know what you're going through because both like you are living different lives than they are. You know, the things you go through are different, so they cannot relate to what you're going through. So for me, that's has been like a challenge, and I'm sure a lot of majority of people who are into the same situation, they face the same challenge. That you get to such situations where you're like, if I had my some Africans or some other people who are coming from where I come from, they it might be helpful. Um, I've not dealt with a lot of racism, I would say, though I have dealt with some, but it's not something that it's like everyday thing for me. I dealt with some hardships when I worked. There was a village, I'll call it a village, a small town here in Michigan. It's down there where
mm,
these people were not, they had not moved to go to another anything. They just grew up in that area. They're all
mm,
used to that area. So it was a tough time to break through there because they don't know you. Most of these people maybe they have never even seen a black person or something. So you going in that environment is kind of hard. But
mm,
also there has been like a lot of
mm,
sad stories of other people who are living in different states. Um, I have not had encounters with the police, but I've had stories of other people who have encountered the police and going through that, getting arrested and all that stuff. So the other thing too for me, I try to keep away from trouble, but that doesn't mean that trouble won't find you. You know,
mm,
I've been lucky; I've never been pulled over. I've been in the states for coming to 11 years now. I'm grateful for that. I try to keep stay within the law and respect the law. I'm not above the law, but like again, I said, it doesn't matter if you're respecting the law or obeying the law. Sometimes these things find you
mm,
even when you're obeying the law. But I've been lucky and God has blessed me to just mind my business. I literally just wake up, go to work, come back home. I have a daughter and my wife. So I just come back home and just chill with my family and just do my podcast. So I've been able and lucky to keep away from some of the bad stuff like people hear on the internet and just hear stories.
the funny thing is, I know you said that people in America have not seen a black person. I thought, I thought it's something here in China we usually mock the Chinese for.
Oh, yeah.
But you guys had a black president and you've never seen a black person. Kind of looks weird.
No, like, so maybe they have seen, okay, because when you say they had a black person, they have seen like on the TV. But some of these people have not lived around black people.
Mm,
They have not. Like, and some of them they don't want to.
mm,
So when you go in their community as a black person,
yeah.
then you're gonna suffer because you brought yourself there. They did not bring themselves to you. So you are in their territory and they'll have to treat you the way they want. I didn't even last in that place. I think I lived there. I lived there 2 years, but it felt like 2 years under the water. So it was really bad.
Nice. And how strong is the Ugandan community? You guys have, is it Ugandan National North American
Yeah, yeah.
Association?
Una,
Yeah.
uh, Ugandan national. Oh, they'll kill me for not knowing that. But yeah, there's Una the people usually go to, and actually, in Michigan we have a Ugandan community. shout out to Hope. I don't know if Hope will tune into this podcast. But Hope, I've never met her, but she's a Ugandan and she lives in Michigan, and she has tried to get together to bring Ugandans together in a community. We have the WhatsApp groups, and we have this WhatsApp group for all the Ugandans in the US. She's trying to recruit many people. When we find a Ugandan, they join that group, and yeah, it's been amazing. It makes you feel like you have a family. So
mm,
that's where we go. We laugh, and they usually like make some events, organize events. Like there's
mm,
an event that's going to be in Dallas, in Texas, for the Ugandans, for the youth. So there's that. We usually try to get together, and I'm going to try to be better to going to those events because I've been super busy and I've not been able to go to them. But it's
mm.
cool to have those events because, like on October 9th, the independence, then we get together and make chapati. We make all the Ugandan food, like you've been missing. And I'm sure the people in Boston have that. So it's been around. So a lot of people are doing that.
Nice, nice. And what would you say for someone who is skeptical about the American society towards blacks, especially someone who just sees the news? There's
Yeah.
that gun violence, Black Lives Matter.
Mhm.
Is it possible for a black person to live the American dream?
That's a good question. It's a funny question. I might not be so political or know everything about Black Lives
Yeah.
Matter and everything. Like I said in my personal journey, I've lived in America. I've
Mm,
not encountered a lot of that stuff.
mm,
It does not mean it does not happen because I know it does. There's a lot of people who go through that, but I think God has blessed me. They said a prayer of a mom. I believe my family prays for me to keep away from that. I would say I'm blessed. Um,
mm,
but even the things that I've gone through, um, is not that bad. It hurts. Nobody wants to go through that.
mm,
I don't want to dismiss that there's people who are actually suffering from racism because they are. Some of these people they don't do anything for it. And actually, speaking about that, I'm a kind of person who does not care about things. I try to erase them off my head. And funny thing is, I forgot this happened to me. I'll tell you a story. We usually go up north. Up north is like a really, I don't even know how they call them. Like white people, white community. Um, I go to
mm,
this restaurant to pick up food,
mm,
and there's only white people in there. I don't really care because
mm.
first, I'm not doing anything wrong. Second, I'm just there to do what has taken me to do there.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not going to go there and abuse people. I'm not going to go there fight people. I went to pick
Mm,
up my food. I come across
mm,
these four guys. They were drinking alcohol at a bar. I didn't say anything to them. I talked to the lady. I was like, "Hey, I need my food." And when these guys saw me walking, they're like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa!" And then they pushed back. They moved far away from me. I was like, "What did I do?"
mm,
I didn't really care because they were not doing anything harmful to me. I mean, the signs were bad, but they were not physically doing anything bad to me. So I did not care. I got there to get my food. I'm signing my receipt because you have to sign a receipt and leave a tip. They come to the counter and they tell me, "Can you sign here too?" And I knew that was just they were trying to provoke me or trying to because of what they did at first, and I was
mm,
just trying to stay away from them. I was like, no, I won't sign it because I don't really have a reason to sign it. I was just minding my business. So I signed the receipt, woke up, and two of those guys followed me at the back, and I just overhear them say, "Should we go after him?" I was like, dang. I didn't want to cause any sins. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to go away. And I just walked out of that door, and they were a little slow to decide what they wanted to do. And by the time they got outside the parking lot, I'd walked around the restaurant and just went with my food because I walked, I didn't drive. So they thought I had a car in the parking lot. And then I just saw them after I left the restaurant. I saw them looking for my car in the parking lot, but I already gone. Something like that. Like it's not really like it's serious, but
mm,
I was able to go away from that. So things like that happen. and sometimes you have to choose what you want to do next. And
Mm.
sometimes I ignore it. That one I didn't like it because it was actually somebody trying to provoke you to try to see what you can do. And it's things like that. You can keep the law, but then sometimes these things will find you, and you just have to be careful and just keep your cool.
I get it. I get it. And one aspect of American culture that you touched on your story, the tipping culture. Do you think it can happen in Uganda?
It's funny you say it because I hosted Melissa Molonji on my podcast. Shout out to Melissa. She lives in Germany, and we were talking about Uganda, and we're talking about the development about Uganda and things that have changed. And we're reacting to comments that people have said about Uganda,
Mm,
especially the point was safe border, that they're underpaid. Usually, the tipping thing in America is people who earn less money, like the waiters. They pay them like $5 an hour, so the tip actually tops up to what they make. So it's like a gratitude. You just thank them for their service. Which, growing up in Uganda, I thought you only tip somebody if they've done something good. It doesn't have to be a requirement. Like,
mm,
I'm gonna tip you because I'm happy of your service. But here in America, even if you're not happy of the somebody's service, you have to tip them. I mean, they're not gonna take you to prison if you don't tip, but it looks bad on you as a person. And I remember I didn't know that in my mind. We went the first year I was here. I went to a restaurant, I ate food, and my friends were tipping. I was like, I don't have money to tip. There's nothing special they did to me for to deserve my tip.
mm,
So that's how I viewed it until like I've lived here longer that even when somebody doesn't serve you or anything, you have to leave a tip. And there are some places that impose the tip on your service, on your receipt. Like it's there. It's part of what you paying for. But in Uganda, and I don't know if the Ugandans actually practice this, the ones who are there. But when I go to Uganda and I get a haircut, I tip those people. I tip them because I'm appreciating the service they do. Melissa Malonji was saying the same thing that she tips these people because of the service that they've done. So it's in me. I don't know if people in Uganda do it. I've seen some people like give you some extra money on top of what they're giving you. So I'm sure some people tip in Uganda. It's not just like a law. It's not like a must.
The funny
But I'm
thing
sure.
is that the funny thing is tipping is illegal here.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
it is illegal.
So
So
so people are not required. What if you want to give somebody money?
I think there are other ways you have to do it, but it
Okay.
shouldn't be direct and seen.
So the thing too, like actually that reminds me in Uganda when I get a haircut, there's a place that I went to. I'm not gonna mention names, but the owner of the salon takes the money from these people. So I had to find them. I was like to give them this money when the owner is not watching, so they can just put in their pocket. Because if you tip them, they're gonna add all that money and then they'll share it with everybody. But me, I want to appreciate this one person, so I don't
Mm.
want you to take his money. I didn't know that tipping is illegal in China.
It is.
Wow. Now I know when I visit China, I'm not gonna tip somebody and they they arrest me in China.
Yeah, yeah. Don't tip, don't tip, don't tip.
Yeah.
Um, so now let's look at the life an African or Ugandan in the diaspora. There's that thing called the black tax. Hope you know it.
Black
Where
tax.
like where
Yeah.
like for the fact that you're abroad, your family members or your friends must get something from you, mainly financial. How do you cope with it? Because I cope with it, friends here cope with it, almost everyone I know copes with it. How do you cope with it?
So we're talking about the family back in Uganda.
Yeah, all your
Exactly.
friends back home.
Bro, that is my hardest part of life. And you know me, I'm a people's person. Like
Yeah.
I know a lot of people. I have a lot of people. I have a lot of friends. I'm friendly to everybody. So that puts you in a tough situation because and there's days where actually my head hurts because my family would send me a text like, "Hey, Bunny," especially like in the Christmas season. Here we just finished Christmas. My family like, "Hey, Kati Christmas, see, it's arriving, it's around the corner." Bichi, 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 bichi. And so, actually, my family is. I won't even. I'm not gonna blame my family because they don't ask me money, but it's just a pressure on me that I
mm,
want to help. Like my dad will never ask money from me. My mom will never ask money from me, but it's just me that I want to give them. But then it comes to my friends. So my friends, Bamani, they know. Oh, I'm not gonna try to speak Lugana here. They know Bonnie's in America, blah 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 blah, and then they call you, "Hey, Kati, can you send me 10K, 20K, 30K?" And just yesterday, somebody sent me, "Hey, 50K, hey, my school fees." So one day you can have like 10 people looking up to you, and I'm the kind of person who likes to help. I really do like to help. And it bothers me when I've not helped somebody. So it's really hard on me because my heart is a giving heart. And sometimes I cannot give. And it hurts me because I cannot give. But also hurts more
mm,
that the people cannot understand that you don't have. When people hear you are in the US, you work on airplanes, you have money. There's no way you're going to explain
mm,
to them you don't have money. But then
mm,
there's no way that I'm going to put all my life on the internet or in your face to tell you I don't have money. So it's really hard. And
mm,
I feel like some people should have some grace on these people that are abroad, that are
mm,
working in the outside countries because, and they should learn to trust us. Like when we tell them we don't have money, we really don't have money. But some people don't trust you and they say, like,
mm,
you say you don't have, "Toyagara kumowa," you don't want to give them money. So it's not always like that. People
mm,
are
mm,
actually going through a lot. Like, I try to put it in simple terms like, yes, we might make a lot of money, but living in America, it's expensive. Like, the money you spend throughout a month is a lot of money. So, whatever money you make at your workplace, if that money you were taking it to Uganda, you'll be a rich person. But if you're spending it in the US with a high cost of living, that money is nothing.
yeah, yeah, I understand. I understand. I understand. Um, so my question is now about Uganda. You lived in America for more than 10 years. You've definitely lived in Uganda for, for a large part of your life. Um, what do you think Uganda needs to really, really develop? What's lacking?
I think it needs to start with the people themselves. A lot of people, yes, and I'm not going to be political, like, yes, our government needs to play a part
Mm,
in some of the
mm,
things. But again, as the youth, as the people, it needs to start with
mm,
you to change your mindset.
mm,
A lot of people don't have that mindset. A lot of people are looking at the government, 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 government. Yes, government controls the majority of things, but you can also start your own without depending on the government or something. A lot of my fellow youth in Uganda need to change their mindset to be successful, to see this change that they want. The funny thing, we like to laugh and do things like on the podcast, like I said. One of the guy told me Ugandans can go to the club from Monday to Sunday. Where does the money come from? Nobody knows. Who doesn't want to have a good time? We all want to have a good time. But sometimes you need to calculate, no, and you say that if I want to be successful, maybe I can just go out once so I can
mm,
save this money. Somebody goes out every day, Monday through Friday, and then they'll call you the black tax thing. "Katumugana wange, will you send me 10K?" But they've spent their money all going out to the club.
mm,
But then at the end of the day, they want money. So that mindset needs to change. Like, yes, you need to have fun, but you also need to work. Yes, they do work, but
mm,
then they'll spend their money
mm,
recklessly and then they don't see where it's going, you know? So that mindset needs to work. I was talking to another youth and he told me that he's unemployed, he doesn't have a job,
mm,
but he got a job that they're paying them 200,000 a month. But he's
mm,
telling me his bill for the month is like, let's say 500 a month. That's how
mm,
much he spends. but the
Mm,
job that's hiring is only paying 200. So this guy said no to that job because the job is not giving him enough money to cover the
mm,
expenses of the month. So he remained unemployed. So I'm like, something is not adding up. So you'd rather be at zero than getting the 200K to at least
mm.
cover
Yeah.
quarter of your bills. Then you have to hustle for the 300K. But if you have zero and it's the same person who calls you to be like, hey, send me some money, send me some money. So that kind of mindset needs to change because people in America, there's people who are working two jobs to just make sure they have money. So these are the people we are looking at back home, like people who are looking at the states. Somebody's working two shifts to make the money that you called, but here you get this one job and you don't want to take it. So that mindset
Mm,
needs to change in a lot of youth. And then Uganda is a country where I know sometimes, okay, I've been away for over 10 years. So some of these things might have changed. And don't hold me onto something if I say something that is not happening right now. But like, we don't sit back and just wait for government to what their medium. Like, there's no jobs in the government. Like, we will call it what have you done as an individual
mm,
to
mm,
show that?
mm,
Because my dad I mean, a lot of people used to say like Katondawa, Ainaya Yongerwako, or something like that. Um, so you have to do something. So then I think something will find you on the way. The hardest part is to start or to go for that something. So I feel like that has been a lot of our weakness. I mean, on top of the government and things that the government need to do, we as individuals, we need to take that part to actually challenge ourselves to be better because the change is going to start with you. You don't expect somebody else to do the change you want for you. You're going to have to do yourself. So I'm big at mentality and how people look at things, how people think. Um, and then they look at you and it's like you have a boring life, which is funny because people see us and you say you have a boring life. All you do is you just wake up, go to work, come back home, go to work. When do you get
uh,
chance to like do this, this? It's like, and the same day they're gonna call you like, hey, we need some money. But anyway, not to speak about. But for me, I think the mentality needs to change. Like that mentality needs to change in this youth.
nice, nice, nice. One of my final questions to you would be for the Ugandan youth listening right now, what would be your advice to them?
I'm not very good at giving advice. It's funny. I'm not very good at giving advice, but I think I'll just tell them like to just to learn. Like one thing that has helped me. I'm not gonna give advice, but I'll just share my
Mm,
personal things that have
mm,
helped me. Maybe they
mm,
work for you, maybe they'll not work for you. Being open to learn. You don't think you have everything. Like you don't think you know everything. There's a lot of people who have that mentality that they know it all. You don't know everything. Allow yourself to learn something new and be open to learning something new. Um, when we bring this podcast and we bring people to talk to them and people to listen, I really have this one friend who will never change their mentality no matter what. They always think they're right. Even if you tell them something, they'll never believe it. And then
mm,
they mess up, and then they come back, and then the cycle repeats. But when you open yourself to let somebody else look at something you're looking at on a different angle, it's going to help you to change your perspective. Even when you know you have all the answers of something, somebody
mm,
else might see something different. Like, hey, what do you think? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? I'm gonna do
mm,
this. I'm gonna do that. That will help you a lot along your
mm,
way.
mm,
Um, my dad has helped me with that. Like before I make a decision on something, yes, at the end of the day, you're gonna have to make the decision. But being open to let somebody else help you view that thing better, it will help you with your decision. I'm like, okay, yeah, I think I see it, and I'm gonna do this, and that will be it for. So, my message for the youth, I know it's long, but it's just Be teachable. Be willing to learn and change your best. Don't ever settle. Don't think you got it all. And the biggest one, stay humble. No matter what, no matter what you've achieved. Like a lot of people reach out to me, it's like, hey, I didn't even think you're gonna respond to my text. And okay, so
Be too inclusive, by the way. I didn't think you're going to respond.
I'll say it on your podcast. A lot of people look at me as a celebrity. I don't look at myself as a celebrity. I'm Bonnie. I'm just like you. There's nothing. I'm just a human being like you.
Mm,
I don't even want like the word celebrity. Like, yes, it might appear like that, but to me, I'm just like you. And anybody, if there's anybody out there who's listening to this podcast that knows me and says, Bonnie ignored my text, that's a lie. That's a lie. I'll reach out to you, talk to you, answer the question you got. And yeah. So whatever you do, stay humble because this life is funny. It might change on you.
mm. Nice, nice. My last question to you would be, what makes you a proud Ugandan?
What makes me a proud Ugandan? Yeah. Wow. What question. I've never even thought about it. I love you. Oh man. It's hard to answer this question without being like biased. So I don't even know if I'm proud Ugandan because I was born in Uganda. I really love Uganda. There's some
Mm,
things that might have killed
mm,
the love for us or changed the things for us that
mm,
we don't really like about the country, but it doesn't change that I'm always gonna be a Ugandan. And that's why when I was looking for a name to name my podcast was the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Because I'm gonna be a Ugandan boy for the rest of my life. It doesn't matter that I live in the US now. I'm always a Ugandan. I love my people in Uganda. Actually, I think my answer would be the people in Uganda. I love the people in Uganda. You see, I was talking about mentality, mindset and everything, but I believe Uganda has some of the most hardworking people too. I mean, there's some that are lazy, but those people out there work and work and work, and they want to change their lives. So I'm proud of the people from Uganda because in America there's a what they say, getting it out of the mud. Yeah, like getting it out of the mud. It means like they're working hard for what they have.
mm.
So I'm proud for that, and I'm proud for all my Ugandans that are hustling.
Nice, nice. Thank you, Mr. Bonnie, for passing by. We truly appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed being on your podcast. I enjoyed having you on my podcast. I really love the work you do. It's amazing. It's amazing to see another podcaster, and
Mm.
I've not really done a lot of podcasts. So